Hello and welcome to Cocktails with a Twist of History, your digital destination for all things cocktails. I want to talk today about a cocktail called a Ward 8. It's a whiskey cocktail that's made with orange juice. It's one of the cocktails that had a resurgence of popularity when the 3 Martini lunch started to die down. Before we continue, I also want to stop and just ask you to send a link of this show to some of your friends so maybe they can enjoy it as well. So from 1950 to the 1970s, it was very common for the business population to take clients or other executives out for what was called a 3 Martini lunch. Often they skipped the food and they just had the martinis. It was a symbol of success to be able to do this. It was, to be clear, the martinis in those days were a little bit smaller, but it still would have been about 1.5 to 2.5 martinis, and they were drinking this in the middle of the workday. By the 1970s, tastes had changed, and the cocktails started to get larger, so people started drinking more whiskey cocktails. The Ward 8 gained a lot of popularity with this crowd. The Ward 8 was a cocktail that was originally invented in 1898 in Boston to celebrate the politician named Martin M. Lamazee. And this guy won the state legislature. It happens to be a really good cocktail. Well, I've been talking way too long without a cocktail in my hand, so let's make a Ward 8. Okay, it is a rye cocktail, but there are people that use bourbon as well. Today I think we're going to try it with bourbon just because. And here we go. I'm going to take, it is a shaken cocktail, so we need our shaker. And we are going to use a full 2 ounces of bourbon. You'll notice that if I do use a whiskey cocktail, or most of my cocktails like that, I tend to use 2 ounces instead of the 1.5 ounces. I just happen to like it like that. It needs a 1/2 ounce of freshly squeezed lemon juice. So I have it already here. There we go. And it needs 3/4 ounce of freshly squeezed orange juice. Now, in those days, way before there was anything that would have had it other than freshly squeezed, so you're talking the late 1800s, but orange juice was a popular kind of thing to put as an addition to something. And this also needs 2 teaspoons of grenadine. And also, there were a lot of drinks at this time that were used with grenadine. It was a way to sweeten up a cocktail, and people like that red color. We are going to add our ice. And like I always say, got to add a lot of ice to the cocktail. Here we go. We are adding our ice. If you notice, I finally started to use my ice tongs. And here we go. We're going to cover up our shaker and we're going to shake. There we go. Now, this is a cocktail that is going to require an old-fashioned glass, and it is going to require some ice that goes in the glass, which is something also I don't make a lot of. Here we go. Shake it up. Here we go. And we are going to put it into the cocktail, and it makes a very nice kind of a pink. Sometimes it's a little bit more red. This one's a little pink. And I have an orange twist as a garnish. We are going to put that in there. And cheers. Ooh, very nice. Very nice cocktail. The flavor of the bourbon really comes out. I'm using a Clyde May bourbon, which is a little bit of a higher proof, and it's a little bit of a bold bourbon. If you're going to switch it from the rye to the bourbon, it's probably good to use a bold tasting bourbon. Delicious cocktail. Okay, so we said that it was a cocktail that was made in the late 1800s. That's when it started. But the Ward 8 was a district in Boston. And Boston itself was more important of a political area than it is today. If you're listening from Boston, sorry about that. It wasn't that this guy, Martin M. Lamoussy, was so famous or so important himself, but it was the way that he held his politics and he did his politics. That was the comment on the drink. It's why the cocktail became so popular. It was a statement on his dirty politics. There were stories that he was handing out pre-filled ballots to the voters as they were going into the polls. By the way, a Ward 8, if made in the winter, if you add a dash of aromatic bitters such as Angostura, it will bring out the rye or the bourbon, and it gives it a little bit of a warmer feeling. If you want to make it more of a tropical drink, then you can add a splash of pineapple juice or coconut water, and it'll add a little bit of fruitiness to it. As for the 3 Martini lunch, it came back in popularity with the Madison Avenue advertising executives, and they said that they became more creative after a lunchtime drink. Reasons that the 3 Martini lunch died down: there was something called the Fitness for Duty programs, which meant that you should be more healthy. There was a decrease in the tolerance for alcohol, particularly at work. People had less leisure time for business executives, and there was an increase in size of the martinis that were being served. Because business lunches were tax deductible, it was pointed out by John F. Kennedy in 1961 that taxpayers were helping to fund the drinking of executives, but nothing really changed with the tax laws. Then, Jimmy Carter condemned the 3 Martini lunch during a 1976 presidential campaign as unfair practice for the rich. His opponent, Gerald Ford, in 1978 speech to the National Restaurant Association, responded with, quote, "The 3 Martini lunch is the epitome of American efficiency. Where else can you get an earful, a bellyful, and a snootful all at the same time?" Unquote. By the way, I'm a fan of George Carlin. George Carlin had a line. He said there was a crackdown on the 3 Martini lunch, but it, quote, "shouldn't affect the working man's 2-joint coffee break." Anyway, as usual, if you've heard other parts of the story or other pieces of history, we want to hear it. Put it in the comments, email it to us, or tell it to the bottle. Also, don't forget to like, to subscribe, to put something in the comments, to send us a link, do something. Also, send some friends a link to this so that they can watch it as well, and we can bring you more episodes of Cocktails with a Twist of History. Thank you.